Does the zombies community love Shattered Vale in Black Ops 6 Zombies? The map's been out for 2 days now, and I have seen so many people say that this is either their favorite map in Black Ops 6 or at least one of their favorite maps in the game. I even saw a post from Beware the Six, go check out his channel, where he asked which is your favorite large-scale zombies map in Black Ops 6 Zombies, and 73% of people voted for Shattered Vale, which is absolutely crazy to see. Personally, I still slightly prefer Citadel Day more, mainly because of the wonder weapons, but I think it's very possible that my opinion will change after some more side quests get discovered, because currently there is not a lot of side quests that have been discovered, and the ones that have been discovered are not that crazy. But I wanted to do a video to discuss why I believe the community is really loving this map even more than Citadel Day more, and giving some of my own personal thoughts on the matter. First things first, I think one of the main things that caused people to love this map so much is how low the expectations were going into this map. Expectations can really make or break an experience. If you have really high expectations for something, it is harder for that thing to be satisfying to you because your standards were so high for what the map was going to be. This is something that I believe happened to Black Ops 4. Now, as much as I understand why Black Ops 4 had hate at launch with all the crashing issues, and obviously they made some huge changes to like the perk system and such, but I do think a big reason why that game also got a lot of hate was because it was following Black Ops 3, or at least in terms of Treyarch's next title. And so everyone was comparing it to Black Ops 3, which is totally fine. You're allowed to compare games to previous games. That's a very human thing for us to do, but of course that is going to cause your expectations to be very, very high. Therefore, it's going to be harder for that game to meet those expectations. And there's a few reasons for the expectations being so low for Shattered Vale. One of the main reasons was because this map was following the Tomb. The Tomb really set the bar quite low for what a Zombies DLC map should be. It was very simple, there wasn't a lot to it. The Easter egg was very short, there wasn't a lot of new content to the map, so overall it felt just like an underwhelming experience that fans got bored of very, very fast. Story-wise, it was also lacking quite a bit. I mean, even the ending cutscene didn't have a single piece of dialogue from the main crew. And what set the expectations for this map even lower were the leaks and rumors behind it. There was one leak in particular that mentioned that this map was meant to be similar in size and scale to the Tomb and Liberty Falls, which of course, playing the map is not true whatsoever. This map is probably even bigger than Terminus if you don't include all the water sections. In terms of wonder weapons, the Wunderwaffe and the Regan Mark II with its variants were both leaked, but a lot of people were going with the assumption that the Wunderwaffe was going to be the only wonder weapon on Shattered Vale, and then the Janus Towers map would have the Regan Mark II variants. So a lot of people were going into this map only expecting the Wunderwaffe to be on it. And I'm not saying we should never believe leaks at all whatsoever because of this. I just think we need to always keep in mind that leaks are always subject to change. Just because someone says something does not mean it's 100% going to be the case, but it is possible to be the case. So I don't want people to completely rule out leaks ever again because of this, but also don't 100% think it's definitely going to happen just because a leak or a rumor says it. Personally, I wish leaks didn't exist at all because I think it'd be way more exciting for us to find out about these things when Treyarch decides to reveal it, but unfortunately it's kind of impossible to avoid leaks nowadays when you're online. So I just decided why not talk about it here and there. But even Treyarch's marketing itself did kind of set the expectations at kind of low. Now, I'm not saying they did a bad job with the marketing. I'd actually say they did a pretty damn good job with the marketing this time around because they didn't show off a lot of the map. They really made it seem like this map wasn't going to have a bunch to it because they really didn't show off much from it. Which, like I said, I do think that's a great thing overall, but I do think it also set the expectations kind of low because they have a history of showing off a lot of each of the maps. So a lot of people just assume that maybe the map wasn't going to have a lot because they're not really showing off much of the map. Also, the fact that we didn't get an intro cutscene again made a lot of people assume that the outro cutscene was going to be just like the Tomb's outro cutscene, which was very uneventful. But of course, this outro cutscene for this map was incredible. So that was also a thing that our expectations were way lower than what we actually ended up getting. Now, obviously, I don't think this means we should set our expectations extra low for every future map just so we end up liking the map more. I don't think that's a fun way to get excited for a game. I personally like to have a lot of hype for maps and games. I just think that Treyarch needs to set expectations as properly as possible, and even in this case, like I said, I think they set the expectations way lower, especially with comparing the map size to Citadel Day more. That's what they said on the COD pod, and after playing Shattered Vale, there is absolutely no way this map is the same size as Citadel Day more. It is definitely bigger. I'm not sure about how much bigger, but it is definitely bigger than Citadel. But I don't want to downplay the map itself because it's not just about expectations. The map itself is also just a damn good map. One of the main things I see people loving about this map is how much less boss spam there is. Now, I don't think people want there to be less special enemies in total, because the map actually has a lot of special enemies that can spawn in or can be included in different parts of the Easter egg. Just what people don't want is a bunch of bosses to come all at once on every single round. That is something that people just don't enjoy, and this map doesn't really have that problem the same way other Black Ops 6 Zombies maps do. There is not that many special enemies that will spawn throughout each round. When the Elder Disciples come, a lot of bosses will come, because the Elder Disciple kind of like makes the evolution process for the vermin go faster, so it turns into a parasite, and then a doppelgast, and then sometimes an amalgam, and that causes a lot of different special enemies to be spawned in. But once you take out the Elder Disciple, most of those are gone, and the rounds in between when the Elder Disciple isn't spawning in, there really isn't that many special enemies. Sometimes you'll see some toxic zombies, maybe some vermin, but for the most part, it is mainly just regular zombies, which is something that I think people just like. They want there to be rounds where they're just fighting regular zombies and maybe like one or two other little special enemies. But having a bunch of amalgams spawning in all the time on some prior maps was just something people really didn't like, and it was starting to get annoying. So this map doesn't really have that problem, which is making the high rounds a lot more fun for most players. The map size and detail is also much better than prior maps. Even the Easter egg itself just has a lot more to it. I wouldn't say it's on the same complexity of a World War II or Black Ops 4 Zombies map, but it still is a lot closer to that than any other modern era Zombies map. I would say maybe Citadel is close to it as well, but this map has a lot of different parts that are lying around in different places, a lot of quest items to pick up, and that makes the first couple experiences on the map really exciting, because you're solving all these things on your own. You're trying to figure out what each item applies to, and that's fun. And I think Zombies needs to go back to being way more complicated, because it makes the map feel more replayable for the long term. The map is still very easy to play casually. Like, you don't have to mess around with these quest items. If you want to just go to Pack-a-Punch, pack a bunch of weapons, and that's it, you can do that. But of course, if you want to do all the quest stuff, it's a little bit more engaging on this map. It's also one of those maps where you can kind of do any quest thing in any order you want. You don't have to do things in a linear fashion, and I think those maps tend to be way more exciting. Terminus and the Tomb had Easter eggs that were a bit more linear, and I feel like those types of Easter eggs I just don't personally like as much, whereas Citadel and Shattered Veil have Easter eggs that are a lot more freeing, where you can kind of just do things in any order you want, and it's really fun to try to figure out what order is the best order to do the different steps in. It also makes the map less repetitive, because you're not doing everything in the exact same order every single game. And just some quick spoilers for the boss fight. If you haven't seen the boss fight and you don't want to see it, just click over this part of the video. But the boss fight is also really incredible, and it's something that everyone was asking for ever since the dinosaur statue was shown off on this map. Everyone wanted to see that become the boss on this map, and I was honestly not expecting it to happen, but the fact that it did is absolutely incredible and makes for one of the best boss fights in the franchise. But to be honest, Black Ops 6 as a whole has been really good with the boss fights. If there's one aspect of BO6 that I think is the best aspect of the game, it would have to be the boss fights. These are so damn good. This one kind of reminds me of the 9 boss fight, just the way it works, the way the dinosaur can run up to you and like knock you into the air. It's pretty exciting. I don't think it's that difficult. I think it's probably actually easier than some of the other boss fights in this game, but only if you're well prepared for it. It really just kind of depends on what you brought into the boss fight, but if you brought in a good weapon with double tap, you'll probably be okay. Just one minor gripe though, I do think the boss fights should get a little bit more complex. Like, I do think the bosses in BO6, no matter how good they are, it is mainly just shoot the boss until it dies, and of course you can shoot it in the different weak points, but I want it to get a little bit more engaging in terms of what you're supposed to do. We've had boss fights like that in the past where there's like different puzzles included during the boss fight itself, and I would love to see that be done for some of the future boss fights. But overall, the scale of them is incredible, the intensity of them is incredible. Maybe make them a little bit more challenging as well, and I think we would have the best boss fights possible. But of course, I think it's important to note that the honeymoon phase is a real thing. This happens very frequently with a lot of video games where people are just absolutely loving it when it first comes out because it's so new and fresh, and then of course a few weeks later they end up not liking it as much anymore. That is bound to happen. It happens with a lot of maps. I've noticed it happen with Citadel. I still love Citadel. I think even for myself, I don't like it as much as I did when it first came out, but even just looking through community comments, people don't like Citadel nearly as much today as they did when it first launched. People talk a lot more negatively about Citadel now as well. So it's very possible that the same thing will happen with Shattered Veil within a few months. It happens a lot. So only time will tell to see if this map really holds up. And I do think overall the systems and gameplay mechanics of Black Ops 6 do kind of hold back the map from having a full classic feel to it, but this probably is the closest to a classic feeling map in this game. Now, of course, like I said, they haven't found every side Easter egg yet, but I do think the map is still lacking in some of those areas when it comes to having a lot of interactive, unique features on the map. I don't really see that many things going on with the map other than what's related to the main quest itself. Obviously, I mentioned there's a lot of different quest items, but of course, all the quest items are for the main quest itself. There's really not a lot of like extra little mechanics that you can mess around with. And as long as we don't have the classic point system, I'm always going to feel like the early round can be a little bit boring with how you actually acquire points. But all in all, I am really enjoying Shattered Vale, and I'm very glad that the zombies community is as well. Hopefully this map stands the test of time and will still be a well-loved map even in the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.